Hey everyone, it's Myron. So, I wanted to talk about the Smash 4 boot camp and what exactly I think Florida could have done to overall have a bit better results, and just my general thoughts on it. So, for those who don't know, Video Game Boot Camp, VGBC, they're doing a summit style event where players get voted in and then they'll be brought to an invitational and all of that, and they can, there's like a $10,000 prize pool and all that. So that's going to happen. But the first phase of voting was Twitter nominations. So I believe 50 something people opted in. They met the qualifications, and then they would advertise on Twitter and have people vote for them, and the top 16 from that would make it into phase 2, which is more Smash EG style votes, where I think you can buy them and all of that. But this is just talking about the first phase. So 16 people could make it in, and Florida had about, I think, 5 or 6, maybe 7 different nominations. Just the ones off the top of my head: ESAM, MVD, Manny, Dyer, myself, and 8BitMan, all entered. And in the top 16, there is only currently ESAM and MVD. One second, I'm looking at it right now because I'm right there. Yeah, in the top 16 only are ESAM and MVD, and MVD is on the lower end of the vote count. He's kind of hovering around the 15-16 spot right now. And then you've got myself, Manny, and Dyer all hovering around the like 18 to 20 spots, roughly, with a large gap in the votes. I believe for instance, or for example, the 1600 or the 16th and 15th spots have about 1500 votes, and then myself, Manny, and Dyer are all in the 700 vote range. So what do I think that means? I think Florida could have probably rallied together to get a third person in, but everyone kind of wanted to do their own thing. I know I personally wanted to go. I think it would have been great. I would have loved it. On top of the high level practice, would have just been really nice to be able to add an invitational like that. I'm sure Manny and Dyer are the same sentiment. They wanted to go there for the practice and all that. But the way Florida is kind of structured, you have so many different regions between like Tampa, Central Florida, Gainesville, Jacksonville, like Pensacola, Miami, Treasure Coast, Southwest Florida. There's so many different subregions that there's a lot of disconnect in the different regions of Florida. So no one has like an allegiance. No one's like, all right, we have to get Florida in here. There's a lot of people who are like that, and kind of at the last push, some people shifted their votes to MVD and things like that, which makes sense because he had the highest number of votes at that point compared to myself, Manny, and Dyer. So they were going to give him that extra boost to get him into top 16. But no one else has any reason to be like, oh, let's vote Manny, let's vote Myron. I know I've read from quite a few different people who are like, if I wasn't voting for my specific friend from Florida, I would go vote for some other player from some other state, because I barely know you. You don't come to my region very often. I don't really like you that much, and that makes sense. There's not a lot of connecting going on between the regions. Do I think that's smart? I mean, well, from my perspective, I would always prefer at least more Florida come in, even though I'm not, on amazing terms with everybody, or if I'm not super good friends with them. It's like I still want my state to prosper. I definitely understand why others would go vote for their favorite player in a different area if they didn't have already a Floridian friend. So yeah, there's like me, Manny, and Dyer all kind of hovering around the 18 to 20 spots, and if we were to combine our votes, we'd easily be top 16, no problem. But that won't happen because none of us can kind of justify why we should go enough to anyone else. A recurring thing I was told about and kind of saw from my own reading was everyone's like, oh, this isn't about gameplay, it's about personality. They want to kind of like sell you as more your person for this, and that kind of makes sense. I know the Summit does something similar. They have their skits and all that. From what I've seen, majority of people who opted in for this didn't actually try to sell their personality. They kind of were like, I'm either really popular already, which gives them following, which gives them numbers, which makes sense. They had a top player who has a large following, kind of give them a boost. For example, I know I believe Zero tweeted out his support for XX, and I'm sure that helped his numbers as well because a lot of people want to support Zero. They did that, and a lot of the times they would try and kind of advertise themselves with their gameplay. I did that initially myself as well. Manny, and Dyer were both like, hey, I want to go to get better. I want to improve. I want to, they gave like some gameplay of them or something, and that makes total sense because, at the end of the day, we're going to be watching the games. And there seems to be some back and forth on what people want for this. They say, oh, they want you for your personality, so you got to have that. But, I mean, if we're being real, people don't really know the personalities of anyone. Like, how well do you know, let me look at someone, for example, how well do you know, like, Schroeder, who's in top, 16, or how well do you know X-Axis personality, or Light, or Fatality? You don't really know them. You know their somewhat online persona that you've gotten from their Twitter or Twitch or something like that, and they're good at the game, but it doesn't, the personality or their, they're inviting them for themselves seems kind of empty for a lot of people, just simply because you don't know them. And a lot of the times they're not getting in because of that. I mean, people like Esam and Ally and Mr. R, maybe. I could see that more for that, or Abadongo, because I know a lot of people think he's funny, But when you're looking at the top 16 people who are in the voting right now, it's not because of their personality that they're really in. It's from what I've gathered, like one of two reasons. Either they're already a top player and have a massive following, Mr. R, Ally, Fatality, Esam, and they can kind of push themselves to get there through their own advertising, and regardless of their personality or whatever, they can get there. No, excuse me. Or they have their entire region support them. So you have people like Light, you have people like let me find someone, Schroeder, Captain L, I'm sure was to a good extent as well, although he did a bit of interesting advertising. Peebnut, people like that who are kind of the sole representative of their regions, so they don't have to worry about it being split up, whereas Florida is so divided in terms of support and just distance, because it's so massive, that people aren't going to feel the desire to do that, because everyone's like, oh, well, Manny deserves to go because he's done really well lately, or MVD deserves to go because he's done really well, but there's so many different ways to look at why someone should get to go. I mean, it's Smash 4 at the end of the day, so there's very few who are very concretely game. I'm not trying to shit on anyone, but for instance, I know Manny's been, he had the last couple tournaments he was at, he didn't do as well as, you would expect. It's Smash 4, it happens, Does that mean he's bad? No. Does that mean, he deserves to go because he won to Octandle? I would say no. I mean, I think for an event like this, you would want more character diversity as opposed to more Diddies and Sheiks and Sonics and generic top tiers. But just from my thoughts, I think I found inconsistencies in the reasons why people are voting. They want personality, but you don't know these people really. So it's either their fans are just voting for them because they know it, or the regions who have the one representative are pushing them into there. Whereas Florida is essentially leaving a third, possibly fourth, with enough rallying person out, just because we don't want to come together and decide who gets to go. And it's unfortunate. It's not surprising. I mean, it happens, but I definitely could have seen a third or fourth Florida person in there if we would have just kind of like sucked up our thoughts on it. Was like, all right, let's support Florida for this, but everyone wants to do their own thing. So those are my thoughts on it. I mean, long story short, Florida's very divided. They don't really they don't feel the need to support each other on that like statewide level, which is why you have other players who may have far fewer accolades to them or anything like that, who are already leagues higher in terms of voting numbers, just because they have an entire state backing them, and we're split 5-6 ways, with people who have very thin allegiances to anyone in the state, because you barely know them or whatever. And it's unfortunate. Hopefully relations between the state can kind of get better over time, and you can have a more unified force in terms of things like this, because I would love to see more Florida in general. If I can't go, I'd like to see Dyer or Manny or someone, going there representing it. But that's something I think to work towards. But for now, I mean, with an event like this, you're pretty much just going to get MVD and ESAM, which, good for them. This goes against what I would want to see out of this event, but I'm not the one voting, it's the people. But yeah, that was just my general thoughts on it, and how I viewed it and how Florida kind of interacts with each other. Um, but yeah, that was it. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you later.